The July 1st ban list hit a lot of powerful cards to reduce the strength of huge tier 0 meta threats, but it also released some cards from its grasp as well. Today, I'm here to talk about a certain card, why it's so strong, and whether or not it's going to define the meta once more. Hello everyone, my name is Protagonist, you can call me Protag, and I'm back with another episode of Rush Review. This is a series where I go over decks and themes to help introduce them to people who might want to learn about Rush, or for those who might want to try something new. It's kinda weird to say that this is an old combo when the game's only been out for 5 years. But Thunderbolt the Blazing Thunder was part of a classic and powerful strategy that has the potential to wipe out entire boards. So we're just gonna jump right into it and look at the main players of the game. Thunderbolt the Blazing Thunder, on the turn that you normal summon this card, needs you to send the top card of your deck to the grave. Then for the turn, this card gains 300 attack. If you have 4 or more level 7 monsters with different names in your grave, you can special summon a level 7 monster from your grave face up to the field. Your main target for this is going to be Can Melody. By returning one other face-up level 5 or higher monster from your field to the hand, you can then shuffle one face-down card from your opponent's field into the deck. If your life points are lower than your opponent's, you can add a level 1 Psychic-type normal monster from your grave to your hand. And as you could probably guess, you do need at least one level 1 normal Psychic monster in grave or in your hand, and usually that's going to be Candy. However, I have seen other decks run Howling Bird for some extra consistency. And last but not least is my favorite little guy, Censor Duckbill. By placing a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck, you can then add a level 5 or higher Thunder monster from your grave to the hand. Seriously though, Konami, please make this guy into a marketable plushie. I beg. Anyway, to set up the basic combo, this is what you need. First up, you need at least 4 unique level 7 monsters in the grave, one of which needs to be Can Melody. Your life points need to be lower than your opponent's. At least one level 1 Psychic normal monster in your grave or in the hand if you can use it as a tribute. You also need a Thunderbolt in your hand. Or if you have one in the grave that isn't part of your 4 level 7s, then you need a Censor Duckbill and one other card in your hand instead. And if you have Thunderbolt in your hand, then you just need 2 other monsters for your tribute summon. Now here's the recipe. Normal summon Thunderbolt, use its effect to special summon Can Melody, use her effect to bounce T-Bolt back into your hand and one face down from your opponent's board back into their deck. Melody then adds back the level 1 normal Psychic from grave to your hand. Tribute the level 1 and Melody for Thunderbolt, and then you rinse and repeat until all of their face downs are gone. This deck definitely takes some time to set up. So things like making sure your life points are lower than your opponent's is pretty easy to do. But we can add cards to help turn this combo online a little faster. Ship of 7 Treasures is a spell card that lets you draw a card when you send a monster from your hand to the grave. However, if you sent a level 7 monster to the grave, then you can draw an additional card. This is a very strong card when so many, if not all of your high level monsters are level 7. And this card continued to get support with the Deity of 7 Treasures, monsters that represent the 7 lucky gods that piloted this ship in lore. All of them even have an effect where you can special summon them if you have a monster with 2700 defense or Ship of 7 Treasures in your grave. Starting with the first release god, we have Yugioh. She has the continuous effect of protecting face-up level 7 monsters and face-down spell and trap cards from being destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Just off that alone, you can probably see why this is currently limited in the game. This is already strong in a lot of decks and directly counters some already good removal as well. Next up, we have Beidai. By sending the top 2 cards of your deck to the grave, you can make one face-up monster on your opponent's field lose 700 attack and defense until the end of their next turn. While not as impactful as Yugioh, Beidai can still have use as both a debuffer and a body for other plays. Finally, we have Deity of 7 Treasures Bika. When you send the top 2 cards of your deck to the grave, this card gains attack equal to the number of face-up level 7 monsters on your field times 400 for the turn. With a possible 3400 attack, that's not too bad. In fact, once you clear your opponent's board, you could bring this card back instead of Melody so that you have more attack power. So with all of these cards being able to special summon themselves for basically nothing, you now have access to level 7 bodies to help be blockers on the field or names in the graveyard for Thunderbolt. The primes are also good cards to use to get some more level 7s on the board and crucially in the grave as well. These cards have the unique ability to be normal summoned by just using one tribute, regardless of level. The only cost is that your stats are reduced because of it. Prime Bandijo can add a level 4 or lower light monster or a prime call from your grave to the hand and give itself 500 attack for the turn. All you have to do is just pay 1000 life points. And Prime Track Tiger needs you to send a monster from your hand to the grave to give another monster Pierce for the turn. If you do need help with lowering life points, you can use cards like Release Wrath to help with that. If your opponent has a monster on their field, you can pay 1000 life points to mill 5 cards. If there was a reptile among them, one face-up reptile monster on your field gains attack equal to the number of reptiles milled times 200 for the turn. Obviously, we're just mainly here for the life point loss and the mill, But if you want to do some reptile stuff, I mean, sure, why not? For legend spells, it's most likely going to be Graceful Charity in hopes to send level 7s to the grave and get other cards in play. For legend traps, removal is great, since your end goal is that your opponent doesn't have good monsters to play after you loop them. However, using Drowning Mirror Force has some great synergy here too, since it puts all your opponent's monsters face down to then be removed by the loop. You should also look into some disruption as well. Cards like... okay, yes, I'm going to bring it up again, but it's because it's good. Shiny Shady, because you can flip your opponent's monsters face down, which is then set up for the loop. Like, what more could you possibly ask for? And after that, you're free to add whatever you think might work for you. I've seen 7 Road variants to give the deck another win condition, and I've seen ones with Grand Legends in them too. It all just depends on what you're feeling because there's just so many different level 7s you can add now. It's such a versatile deck because it's not locked into any specific theme. It's a deck that just does what it wants, and honestly, that's pretty cool. In the variant that I'm playing today, we have a mix of stuff. But the main strategy here is to focus on keeping your opponent's monsters in face-down defense position to wipe everything off the board with the loop. For my legend monster, I am running Snipe Hunter. This is because its ability is very strong. It's definitely gotten me out of some tough situations before. But because you have to discard cards in order to activate its ability, it's a great way to put certain cards in the graveyard as well to help activate Thunderbolt faster. We run Kuribot for easy tribute fodder, and because you have to pay 500 life points to get a Kuribot back. So it's another way to get your life points down if you're somehow even with your opponent. We're also adding a new card that does have some synergy here too. Meet Momyu the Sea Shadow Spirit. On the turn that you normal summon this card, send 2 cards from your hand to the grave. Then you can take control of one face-down monster on your opponent's field. That's it. No other restrictions, you can just use it for yourself. Target huge bosses, and now you're hitting with huge numbers all of a sudden. It has the potential to just flip games. However, the star of the show is going to be Auto Reverse. If your opponent has 3 monsters on the field, you can change all attack position monsters on your opponent's field to face-down defense position. You can then change 3 face-down monsters on their field to face-up. Of course, you're never going to flip them back up, you want all of them to be face-down defense. And because they're all face-down defense, this does deactivate any continuous effects and makes them all prime targets for both the loop and for your potential Momyu plays. And I also have a few joint tech joints here as well. By shuffling 2 monsters from your grave back into the deck, you can target an opponent's monster to turn to face-down defense position. That's all you're really here for because, I mean, you could also fusion summon some Earth Machines, but that's whatever. Use this card to target specific threats if your opponent doesn't have 3 monsters on the board for auto reverse. So here's the $1 million question. Is this deck good? T-Bolt was already at 2 before this new ban list came out, and no one had seen much success with it. Don't get me wrong though, this deck is super fun when it works, but it only works 100% of the time, like 60% of the time, and maybe I'm being a little generous there. I'll at least show off some games where I get the combo off, but setting up for this is so hard if you don't get lucky with your mills, or even worse, you brick with all level 7s and you just have to contemplate life a bit before your opponent wipes you off the face of the planet. Alright, so my first duel is going to be with the Berry Fresh deck, which also got affected by the ban list. My opponent starts with activating Garden, and then they play both Pleasure and Harvest. They activate Harvest to discard Pleasure and Justiciar to gain max attack and then play a Shy before passing. On my turn, I luckily draw T-Bolt so I can ship for 2 cards. I play Snipe Hunter to discard 2, but I only get to destroy 2, so I choose the Garden and Harvest. Then I set a card and attack through. As my opponent draws, I activate Sunset Rebirth and set my T-Bolt again before they start. They play Chirp to get Artlist, use Artlist to get Harvest, Harvest to max attack, and then they play Rich to discard 2 and draw 2, setting 1. Harvest destroys my Snipe Hunter and it's back to my turn. I tribute T-Bolt for Necromane Nana, use her effect to return T-Bolt to the deck to draw 2, and I draw nothing good, so I set 4 and pass. On their turn, I activate Sunset Rebirth again and set Nana. They play Calling Dark Meteor and remove one of my back row. They play Plot of Duality to get Cylinder, and I guess they don't have any plays after that, so they set their monsters to defense and pass. I start with Graceful Charity to get some cards, and then I use Release Wrath to take some more damage and mill 5. I tribute 2 to make Bait Eye, set 2, and then use Bait Eye to mill 2 and debuff one of my opponent's cards. Then I flip over Nana, use her effect to then again draw 2, which was enough to get me a Can Melody, and all of a sudden I have a mini combo on the board. Melody bounces Bait Eye to then bounce the Cylinder, and so now their board is free for the picking. I attack their 2 face-ups and end my turn. Turns out their face down was Bhatia, which they then use to get another Bhatia. Then they Rich to draw 1 and then Harvest to max attack. I know they're worried about attacking through 3 back rows since they then pass after setting some cards. At the start of my turn, they activate Star Salvation Shield, sacking their Harvest to make me attack only once this turn. I tribute 2 cards to make a new melody to then use her effect again to remove some more back row. I bring back Bait Eye and have enough to make another melody to use the effect to get rid of the last face down. Bait Eye returns once more and I use Melody to attack and pass. On their turn, they chirp and get another chirp in hand. They then activate Jest to remove some cards and draw 2. Then they have Calling Dark Meteor to remove the last face down and play Duality to get Mazeful Charity. Then they summon Pleasure to discard the chirp and then Mazeful Charity to get a card to set. Which seemed kinda desperate because on my turn, I just use Melody to remove that card and bring back Bait Eye, and then I have a Candy to use for the summon of Animagica Shooter. Then I use Shooter's effect to clear out the board and the rest was history. The next match I want to show was against an Animagica player. They start off with Pot of Arrogance to draw 2. Then they play Witch and show 2 Whip to draw 2 and send back 2. Then they play Bothia to get Knight, and then they tribute 2 to make Whip and then play Sorcerer at the end. My hand was absolute garbage, so I set 5 and pass. It wasn't looking good. My opponent really didn't play anything else. They just swung at all my cards, all of them piercing due to Sorcerer's effect. My next hand wasn't the worst this time around. I play Auto Reverse to flip their monsters to face down defense. Then I ship to draw 2 and use Release Wrath to mill 5, and at that point I check my graveyard and realized I have enough cards to make T-Bold. So then I activate my Center Duckbill to bring back my T-Bold and summon it onto the field. I mill Melody and it's over. I start the loop and clear out their entire board, making sure I don't misclick and bring back the wrong card. After everything was removed, I T-Bolt to bring back Shooter instead for the slight increase in firepower before hitting face. At the start of their turn, I Sunset Rebirth to bring back another T-Bolt. My opponent then somehow just makes the exact same board as last time. Like, no joke, it was just the same thing, but now they just had a Gardener at the start as tribute. However, they do get to attack this time, so Whip effect to debuff my Shooter, and then they can take down that and the face down, leaving me with just 900 life. Then on my turn, I use the face down Joint Tech Joint to turn the Knight face down to turn off the Destruction Prevention. I Duckbill again to bring back the T-Bolt and summon him onto the field. T-Bolt for Melody, and Melody bounces T-Bolt and the face down. I summon T-Bolt again to bring back Shooter effect to turn Whip into defense and destroy the Sorcerer. Then I summon Momu because that's exact lethal if I hit the Whip with T-Bolt and attack directly with the other 2 to end the game. Thunderbolt excelled in a time when the game wasn't as fast as it was now. In this current meta, monsters just get out faster and they just hit way harder. Sure, there are more cards now to help get this strategy going, but it's just not enough yet to make this deck relive its glory days. I really enjoy how this deck isn't defined by a single theme and is just a pile of stuff put together with hopes and dreams. This list isn't the best, of course. Maybe we can go back to doing some Secret Order stuff too, but I figured I at least try something with some of the new cards. Anyway, this is just a fun little video I wanted to make. If you like this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments by liking and sharing this video. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I'm pretty close to 2K and I'd love to hit that before the end of the year. Once again, this has been Protagonist, signing off for tonight. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.